Hey guys, Ezra here and welcome back to another movie review. And today I am so excited to review this movie called Ne Zha 2. This is obviously a sequel to the 2019 Ne Zha, and it's directed by jiaozi and is part of the Function universe movie. So they try to build their own cinematic universe, and yeah, this is their second movies. And I think it's a really interesting movies, and I think it's a really great sequel as well, and I think the timing of the release in my country, Indonesian, is so perfect. I will explain why in a bit, but yeah. So Nezha basically continued the story from the first movies, where we see Nezha and Albing basically try to gain their physical bodies, because he was destroyed in the first movie, and at this moment there is a bunch of bad guys from the the Dragon Kings from the Four Seas basically tries to imprison Nezha's home, because the leader, which is Albing's father, are angry that Albing was actually, nearly got killed, and during this moment they strike a deal where we have to go to the palace in the heavens, where they try to find like a immortality pill or something like that, I forgot what it was called, because there is so many terms in this movie, but I think it was like a pill or something like that, or like a potion, that was able to revive Nezha and Albing and give them like a proper physical bodies, so because every single time they use their power, there is a chance where their bodies could get destroyed if they're not careful, so that's why they decide to make this deal with the Dragon Kings, so Albin can, have his own physical body, and we don't need any wars between the Dragon Kings and the people from Changtang, which is Nezha's home, yeah, but the movie itself got really bigger and more complicated and more complex as it keeps going on, because there is a big plot points about the heavens, there is a immortal Wu Yang, I think, which I think is a brand new character. He was pretty funny, there is also two characters that accompany Wu Liang, which I think is also a good characters, and of course we have the three new Dragon Kings, one of them, I think the most prominent one is actually the female dragon, or I guess the female dragon queen from the West Sea, called Auron, and yeah, she's basically has the most dialogue among all the three of them, and yeah, it's absolutely fantastic, all this new character that was got introduced here. Even the returning villain, Shen Gongbao, has a brother, and yeah, I think all the characters here have equal screen time, despite the runtime, but I do think the movie itself has to pace itself really well, because I did not get bored, watching this movie. Obviously the movie itself feels like really bigger, compared to the first one. The first one is just like a really simple storytelling, but now the sequel got super bigger, and I think it really expand the universe even further, and I think that is absolutely fantastic, and there is also a worry that maybe the runtime was a bit too long, but when I was watching the movie, I didn't exactly feel the runtime, because I was actually super enjoying the movie, and there is even a moment by the end of the movie I was like, oh, please do not end here, please, I want to see more, like it was so fantastic how this sequel managed to introduce a bunch of new characters, but I feel like they all have equally important roles in the stories, and there is like a beginning arc for them, and there is a conclusion arc for them, even though they might be a side characters, and sure, you might forget about them because there is like so many characters here, but I do think they are memorable enough for the plot point, and it makes sense for the plot to go forward, and there is also some twist that happens in the story that I did not expect that to happen, and I think I was like, whoa, what? I did not see that coming, and I gotta say, man, I have the best theater experience watching this movie, because this theater has 75% full, Clearly, people who watch this movie are obviously a huge fan of the first one, like we are laughing at the jokes, and of course, like some of the twists and turns as well. Like we all audibly reacting to the movies, that is absolutely fantastic, because like that rarely happens on Indonesian cinema, because usually we are really quiet, but for Ne Zha too, like I think the audience are really reacting to the jokes and to the story and the characters and some of the emotional moment as well. Like it's absolutely fantastic, I have the best theater experience, and there is a lot of families that watch this movie, which bringing back my point here, why I think the timing of the release in my country is absolutely perfect is because Snow White just got released on March 19, and this movie got released on March 21st, which is Friday, which is where families usually take their kids to see their movies, and it's absolutely hilarious in my opinion. In my local theaters, there is a lot of families that decided to watch Ne Zha 2 rather than Snow White. Like, oh, like it was a bad timing, man. Because I think the release date for Ne Zha 2 has a different release date for every single region or country, which I understand. Because in China, this movie was released on January I think 29, but it was 2 months later before it released on my country, and it was an absolutely perfect timing to release this movie, because like this week I think the quote unquote big movies they got released was actually the Snow White remake, which I have no plan to see it at all. I was like, okay, that movie got released, whatever, who cares? And then this movie got dropped, and a lot of families and audiences decided to watch this movie instead. It's absolutely hilarious. So yeah, get fucked Snow White. But yeah, Ne Zha 2 is absolutely amazing. It has a best theater experience for me. Did a great job to expand the universe of Ne Zha. I cannot wait to see the third movie, because this movie hasn't been there is some cliffhanger in this movie. So there's gonna be a third movie, which is like, again, I think the director or the studio doesn't necessarily talk about the third Ne Zha movie yet, but we all know it's gonna get made, because the story is still left on a cliffhanger. There is so many bad guys left in the story, and then this movie made $2 billion on China alone. So like, yeah, this movie is absolutely getting a sequel, and I cannot wait for that. But it's gonna take 5 years for the sequel, so we're probably gonna see Ne Zha 3 on 2030 or 2031. So yeah, I'll be like 30 when Ne Zha 3 finally got released. But honestly, I think from the quality of the animation and the visual effects, and of course the action sequence as well, I understand why the first movie and the second movie took 5 years to make, because every single shot in this movie is absolutely breathtaking, like obviously from the, I love the way they set up the visual as well, where it kind of like zoom in on like the animation detail, and then after that it zooms out and show like the bigger scale of the destruction, and like there is so many cool visual in this movie, and they really hold that for so long, and they did that so many times, and honestly it doesn't get repetitive for me, because I really enjoy every single time they did that. And I think the most memorable moment for me, in terms of the visual and the musical score, is where there is in the third act of the movie, where we see the bad guy basically trying to use his cauldron to basically eliminate the dragon's army. You could say that, like that scene itself is absolutely fantastic, and I absolutely love the score in that scene, I guess like the choir in that scene, because they set up the scene. There is a giant cauldron that was actually used by the enemy, and then as the scene was actually played out, you hear this amazing choir was like, whoa, like multiple times, and they did that so many times in the third act, and I absolutely love that, because I think that is just the best theater experience for me. That is the best, one of the best scene in this movie, and obviously one of the best musical score in the movie itself, like I really remember that a lot, and I think it is such an amazing movie, and yeah, I highly recommend you guys to go watch Ne Zha 2, if you guys haven't already, because after this I will go to spoilers. I want to talk about the ending and then my ideas, for the third movie, because let's be honest here, there is absolutely gonna be a third movie, so yeah, if you guys haven't watched the movie, then please go watch Ne Zha 2, on your local theaters. You guys will not absolutely regret this, because it's an amazing sequel. Watch the first movie if you haven't already, it's a great sequel, it's a great expansion to the world, and I think it has a much more greater character moment itself, like the runtime is long, but I do think they really make a good use on that runtime, I think if I have a small criticism about the movie, is that I think some of the jokes was a bit too MCU like, where some of the tone of the movie was, I think for the most part they got the tone right, but there are some moments, in some scene in the third act, where it was completely dramatic and serious, and you think that the characters are going to die, and they cut back to do some jokes, which I think is a bit inappropriate in my opinion, so that's why I'm kind of afraid that the third movie goes a bit too much like the current state of the MCU, where there is just too many jokes and then the tone doesn't exactly match, but I feel like besides that, I think they still did a pretty great job for the most part, and I think the jokes for the most part are really funny. I love that, you know, the theaters are absolutely laughing at the jokes, you know. But it's just like I wish sometimes that the movie can find a way to balance that a bit, you know. Like again, it's not exactly a huge problem, you know, because for the most part they are finding the right way and the right tone, you know, to do the jokes and be serious, and then afterwards being serious, you know. So I think the tone of the movie for the most part it does work, you know. But there is some tiny moments here and there where I was like, oh, okay, you're going a bit too much with the jokes here, you know. Like I think it got me a bad vibes about like this is like the MCU, man. Like it's not a good example here, but yeah, again, it's a small criticism, you know. It doesn't exactly affect the movie experience for me, you know. But yeah, either way. Yeah, go was Ne Zha too, guys. So after this, we get to the spoiler reviews. You know, I want to talk about the ending. You know, where the ending of this movie is absolutely amazing. You know, because just like the first Ne Zha movie, there's a couple of stages. You know, before we get to the final battle. You know, like the huge war between Wu Liang's army, which is like the Heaven's people, which is like that's the twist. You know, where Wu Liang is actually the one who responsible for killing a bunch of people from Chen Tang's past. You know, and I was like, damn, this is the one scene that really surprises me, you know, because I didn't expect to see you know, like most people from Chantang just got killed, you know. I think the only survivors is actually Nezha's parents, and that's it. Everybody else, you know, from like the villains from the first movie that you guys remember probably, you know, like they appear in this movie, you know, not by much, you know, but all of them got killed, you know, by the Heaven's people, by Wu Liang himself, you know, and it's absolutely horrific, you know. I did not expect to see that, you know, and even there is some, you know, like you know, some of the characters from the first movie, you know, which is like the villagers from the first movie. I remember them, and then they got killed in this movie, and I was like, holy shit, dude, like this movie is dark, you know. It doesn't afraid to be dark, you know, and I absolutely love that, you know. And I was flabbergasted by the entire scene, you know. And I think that's a great twist, you know, because I always thought that Shang I think Shen, wait, I forgot his name. Hang on a second, guys. Shen Gongbao. I thought Shen Gongbao is the one that basically command the dragon's army and the sea monster to kill a bunch of people in Changtang, you know, because like it was revealed that Shen Gongbao has a brother, right, which is Xiaobao, and I think Xiaobao or Xiaobiao, I think, where his little brother basically got killed because of the Heaven's people, you know, and then Shen got angry, and then I thought that, oh, like Shen is the one who commands the dragon army to kill a bunch of people in Chantang, you know, which I think that makes sense, right? And I was thinking that the entire time, and I was really curious to see where the story is going to go from here. And then the twist happened where Wu Liang is actually the one who are responsible for killing a bunch of people in Chantang, you know, and I did not see that coming. A lot of my audience also did not see that coming, you know, and I was like, whoa, wow, okay, that is a twist that is, I think, is it's a great twist, you know. I did not see that coming. Yeah, I think Wu Liang is, yeah, well, he's like the villain that you were expecting, you know, where he's a god, you know, he's working for the heavens, you know, and then because he has the status, so he feels like really you know, like really feels like above everybody else, you know, so he looks down on everybody else, you know, like it's kind of stuff that you see a lot of these villains from the Chinese mythology, you know, which is fine. I have no problem with that, you know. But yeah, it's nothing really new, but I do think it serves for a great action sequence in the third act, you know, which I think is absolutely fantastic, you know. And I also want to bring the fact that, which is one of the most emotional moments in this movie, is that, which is Nezha's mother's, you know, death, you know, because she got turned into like an immortal pill, you know. So basically they all got transferred into this like giant ball, you know, or I guess a cauldron, you know, where in the moment they are going to be transformed into an immortal pill, you know, which I don't exactly know if the if you are transformed into like an elixir, that means is that, like, does that mean that you're dead, you know? I'm not exactly sure about that, you know. But yeah, something sad happens, you know, because Nezha's mother basically got turned into like into a pill, you know. And the movie itself is a great direction as well, you know, because I was actually tearing up, you know, on the scenes, you know, because I feel really bad for Ne Zha and his mom, you know, because like his mother are really caring for him since he was a baby, you know. Everybody wants to kill Ne Zha since the beginning, but the mother was like, no, like, this is my child, don't kill him, please, you know. And then now Ne Zha are forced to watch his own mother get turned into like a pill or like an elixir, you know, in front of his eyes, you know. And during the moment, Ne Zha was apologizing to his mother, you know, if only I wasn't a villain, I could be a good son to you. I could make you proud, mom, you know. And then his mother just like, Listen, Nezha, I don't care if you're like a demon or a god, whatever. Like, you're still my son, and I love you. Before she got turned into a pill, and it's just like it's really gut wrenching, and a lot of the audience on my theaters are also really crying, and it's like, yeah, man, it's just a really sad moment, but this leads to my idea for Ne Zha 3 here, because I am curious to see if they're going to bring back the mother in part 3, because I think, again, she got turned into a pill, and I don't exactly know if that means you actually permanently, is that like permanent, or is that, or you can actually find a way to reverse that, like maybe there's a different cauldron that could actually reverse the effect here, where the people who got turned into like an elixir can turn back into a normal person, possibly, right? We have no idea, but that idea could be introduced in the third movie. So during this moment, I have two ideas in my head here, about Ne Zha 3, where the first one, which is what I wanted to happen, is that the mother could come back on the third movie, because Ne Zha in this movie has a brother, two brother, where it was revealed in the movie itself, and they appear in the post-credit scenes, yeah, I think if they decide to bring back Ne Zha's mother, then I can imagine that we see Ne Zha's mom's reaction to see Ne Zha finally becoming this man, because like Ne Zha basically finally achieved his true final form, because for the most part he was just like a kid, there was a screaming, some people call him ugly, and then in the third act of the movie, the moment his mother died, he finally achieved his full final form, which is basically a handsome Ne Zha. I would call him handsome Ne Zha, because he is handsome. Come on, So because the mother also make a comments in the movie where, I'm sorry I cannot see you grown up. I can't see you, grown up, Ne Zha, and then in the third movie, if they decide to bring back the mother, there will be another emotional moment where the mother finally see Ne Zha being this handsome man, finally being his final form, and finally seeing him growing up, and it's just like, that would be a great moment, and that would be a great ending to the characters, because I cannot accept the fact that his mother just died like that, because I like the relationship between Ne Zha and his parents, so I think I want to see the mother came back in the third movie, somehow at least, to maybe reverse engineer the pill, I think they could do that, or they could do the second idea here where basically maybe Ne Zha has to use the immortal pill, which is his mother's pill, to maybe he needs to swallow the pill or like use the pill for other ideas, that maybe it was absolutely necessary to use those pill, for the third movie. And if that was actually the case, then I think that would be absolutely heartbroken, that basically Ne Zha had to say goodbye twice to his mothers, which I have no idea what they're going to do here, so yeah, let me know, guys. Then what do you guys think was gonna happen in the third movie? I want Ne Zha's mother to come back in the third movie. I really want to, but there's also a possible chance where she's not coming back, maybe it's actually permanent, that she's becoming an elixir, and then maybe in the third movie Ne Zha or someone else has to use the mother's elixir, which means that, well, she's not coming back for real this time around here. So yeah, we'll see about that. But yeah, for the third movie itself, there's a lot of antagonists here. We have the three dragons, that is still on the loose, and then they were teaming up with Wu Liang, and then Wu Liang is still not dead, because when Ne Zha tried to deliver the final blow to Wu Liang, where Aurum, which is the female dragon queen, basically used the teleportation to teleport them out from the battlefield, so like Wu Liang is still alive, so yeah, Ne Zha 3 is we're gonna have Wu Liang coming back as the villain, and then his disciple as well, and then we have the three dragons that is still not exactly have a much screen time, but they are teaming up with the heavens, so obviously they're gonna come back in the third movie, so yeah, there is a lot of antagonists in the third movie. So, and also there is a lot of new characters, which is Ne Zha's brothers, which got introduced in this movie. And I imagine in the third movie we get to see Ne Zha and his brothers probably fight a couple of times, before they decide to teaming up together, as a family, Would be nice if the mother came back and then we have all Ne Zha's family fighting the villains. That would be really, really cool, but we shall see about that, Hopefully that's happened, hopefully, man. But yeah, we're gonna get to see the storyline between Ne Zha and his brothers, and then I think in the third movie as well, we're gonna see the relationship between Ne Zha and his fathers as well, even deeper this time time around, because I think the first two movie does focus a lot on the mother instead of like the father, in my opinion. I think the father does have a huge role in the first two movies, that he is an important character, but I think in terms of the emotional impact, I think the mother has the most emotional impact on Ne Zha, so I think in the third movie, this is their chance to give a personal connection between Ne Zha and his father and further develop that, in the third movie, so yeah, a lot, man. There is a lot in the third movie, I don't even know if the third movie is gonna be the conclusion, because I only assume that maybe you do a trilogy after this, because like we have two scenarios here where the main bad guys sort of run away, like it happens in the first movie and it happens on the second movie, so I think in the third movie that someone needs to die from the villain side, because I think some people die from the protagonist side, which is Nezha's mother, in this movie, and then in the ending here, the bad guys always run away, like Ne Zha nearly killed William, but she gets away, so in the third movie, I think it's probably better to conclude the storyline, but again, I have no idea about the source material, so maybe there's a bunch more storyline needs to be told in the story, so maybe there's gonna be Ne Zha 4 in the future, who knows, right? But I only assume that it's gonna be a trilogy, because there is so much more. And even for the third movie, there is still so much more storyline to tell, so I think the third movie is gonna be, it's probably gonna be a bit more longer than the second movie, and it's gonna take another 5 years to make Ne Zha 3, so yeah, we'll wait and see in 2030, at the earliest, so yeah, either way, guys, that's my review for Ne Zha 2, let me know your opinions, guys, in the comment section below, do you guys prefer the sequel compared to the first movie? Like, what do you guys think about Ne Zha's mother? Like, do you guys think that in the third movie, do you guys think that Ne Zha's mother is gonna come back to life, maybe reverse engineer the pill or like the elixir? Or do you guys think this is absolutely permanent, that she's actually dead, so and yeah, what do you guys think about the plot point for the third movie as well, like, are you guys excited to see the same villain again, or are you guys wanted a new villain, just to pack the scene again? Why not, right? Yeah, let me know your opinions, guys, in the comment section below, and yeah, if you enjoyed this video, then make sure, guys, burn and freeze the subscribe button and the like button, and share the videos, the usual stuff, stay tuned for more movie reviews in the future, and yeah, Ne Zha 2, man, great sequel and a really bad day for Snow White. But either way, guys, that's my review, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one then. Bye.